Emma, a 19-year-old girl from Chicago, was told she would never walk again after a tragic accident. Her world felt dark, her dreams shattered, until Jake, a 27-year-old kind-hearted mechanic, appeared with a custom invention that could change everything. Watch as hope, determination, and ingenuity come together to defy the impossible. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now let's get started. Emma sat by the large window of her small Chicago apartment, staring at the rainy streets below. The city's usual bustle was muted by the steady downpour, but it didn't matter. Her world had shrunk to this single room, dominated by the wheelchair she now relied on after the accident that had changed her life forever. Doctors had told her she would never walk again, and their words had crushed her spirit. The once vibrant dreams she held, a college graduation, traveling, even simple strolls in the park, felt like distant memories, slipping further away with every passing day. Her parents had tried to comfort her, their faces etched with worry and helplessness. Friends had called, visited briefly, then drifted back into their busy lives, leaving her alone with her thoughts. The loneliness weighed heavily, and even the smallest tasks now felt monumental. Emma had always been independent, determined, and active. Losing that freedom was unbearable, and she often found herself staring at her legs, imagining the possibility of movement that seemed impossible. She hadn't fully given up, but hope was fragile, like a candle flickering in a storm. One afternoon, her phone buzzed with a message that made her pause. It was from an old friend who mentioned a local mechanic, Jake, who had a reputation for unusual projects and clever inventions. He specialized in customizing equipment and vehicles, and some whispered he had a knack for helping people regain mobility in creative ways. Emma's curiosity piqued, though skepticism tugged at her heart. She didn't want to be disappointed again. After a moment's hesitation, she agreed to meet him at his garage, a place she had never imagined stepping into, hoping for a spark of something she hadn't felt in months: hope. When Emma arrived at the garage, she was greeted by the familiar scent of oil, grease, and metal. The space was cluttered with tools, spare parts, and vehicles in various stages of repair. Sunlight streamed through a half-open door, glinting off chrome and paint. Behind a large workbench, Jake emerged, wiping his hands on a rag. He was 27, tall, with a kind face and attentive eyes that made her feel immediately at ease. He extended a hand, and though nervous, Emma shook it. His smile was genuine, and his voice carried confidence without arrogance. "I hear you need a little help," he said. They sat amid the noise of the workshop, grinders humming, engines rumbling in the distance, as Jake began asking questions. He wanted to understand her condition, what she struggled with, and what her goals were. Emma explained everything: the accident, the limitations, the dreams she feared she would never reach. Jake listened intently, nodding and taking notes on a small pad. His approach was different from doctors or therapists. He didn't focus on what she couldn't do. Instead, he asked what she wanted to achieve and how he could make it possible. For the first time in months, Emma felt seen. Over the next hour, they discussed possibilities. Jake sketched out preliminary ideas for a custom wheelchair system that could offer enhanced support and partial mobility. He suggested modifications like lightweight motors, adjustable braces, and innovative control mechanisms tailored specifically to Emma's body. The design sounded ambitious, almost fantastical, but Jake's certainty and calm demeanor made it feel feasible. Emma felt a flicker of excitement, though mixed with apprehension. She wasn't ready to believe in miracles yet, but the notion that someone could see a path where she had only seen walls intrigued her. Jake showed her some of his past projects: modified bikes, assistive devices for clients with various challenges, even a prototype exoskeleton he had tinkered with in his spare time. His workspace was chaotic, yet there was a method to his madness. Tools were neatly arranged by function, parts labeled meticulously, and sketches pinned to the walls. Emma watched fascinated as he explained the principles behind each invention. The detail, precision, and creativity struck her. She realized he approached problems differently than anyone she had ever met. There was no resignation in his work, only determination and innovation. Over the following days, Emma returned to the garage several times. Jake welcomed her warmly each time, explaining each step of the modifications and involving her in the process. She learned how small adjustments could make a significant difference in her mobility. Each session brought a mix of frustration and fascination, as some designs failed while others worked better than expected. Emma felt alive in a way she hadn't in months. The tactile engagement with mechanics, the challenge of problem-solving, and Jake's encouragement combined to lift her spirits in ways therapy alone had never managed. Emma began to notice subtle changes in herself as well. Tiny twitches in her legs, barely perceptible at first, hinted at potential. Jake celebrated these small victories, treating them as major milestones. He taught her how to use the new wheelchair features, encouraging her to push her limits gently. Their dynamic evolved into one of trust and collaboration. She was no longer just a passive recipient of care. She was an active participant in her recovery. With each session, her hope grew stronger, a feeling she hadn't allowed herself to embrace in months. By the end of her first month with Jake's guidance, Emma had made significant progress. She could shift her weight independently, maneuver the wheelchair with precision, and even support herself briefly with parallel bars he had installed in the garage. These achievements, small as they seemed to the outside world, were monumental for her. Each success reinforced her determination, and the bond between her and Jake deepened. He became not just a mechanic or innovator, but a symbol of possibility in her life, a living reminder that the impossible might just be within reach. Sitting in the garage one rainy afternoon, Emma looked at the partially finished wheelchair and then at Jake, who was adjusting a small motor. A sense of calm washed over her. For the first time since the accident, she believed in potential, in progress, and in herself. The path ahead was uncertain, long, and filled with challenges, but she no longer faced it alone. With Jake's ingenuity, patience, and unwavering belief, Emma's journey toward mobility and reclaiming her independence had truly begun. Hope, once distant, now felt tangible and real. The mornings in the garage began to feel like a ritual for Emma. She arrived early, eager to see what modifications Jake had made overnight. The air smelled of oil, rubber, and metal, but it no longer felt intimidating. It felt like home. Each session started with careful inspection of the wheelchair, checking wires, braces, and motors. Jake explained every adjustment patiently, showing Emma how each component worked. She absorbed the knowledge quickly, eager to understand how her movements were being enhanced. This hands-on learning gave her a sense of control she hadn't felt since the accident, and every small success fueled her determination. As days passed, Emma started practicing subtle movements with Jake's guidance. At first it was minor shifts in her hips or toes, barely perceptible, yet every twitch brought excitement. Jake celebrated each motion, clapping his hands or smiling broadly, making Emma feel like a champion. Their laughter and conversations filled the garage, transforming it from a mechanical workspace into a place of hope. They talked about dreams, fears, and ambitions. Emma shared her longing to walk again, attend college, and travel. Jake listened, never offering false assurances, but encouraging her to believe in incremental progress, which slowly began to rebuild her confidence. Jake began modifying the wheelchair in stages. He installed lightweight supports and added a small motor to assist her leg movements, carefully calibrating it to avoid strain. Emma learned how to control the motor with subtle shifts in her weight, training her muscles to respond again. At first it felt awkward and tiring, but she persisted. Her body, dormant for months, began to respond to stimuli, and each successful movement filled her with pride. Jake documented every session meticulously, noting improvements and setbacks, adjusting the wheelchair's mechanics to match Emma's progress. Their teamwork was precise, almost like a dance of human determination and mechanical ingenuity. By the second week, Emma noticed significant changes. Tiny sparks of strength in her legs became more noticeable, allowing her to shift her weight independently for longer periods. Jake introduced parallel bars in the garage, giving her a chance to practice standing with support. The first time she held herself upright, even briefly, tears filled her eyes. It was a milestone, proof that progress was real. Jake reassured her, emphasizing patience and consistent effort. Each milestone reinforced her resilience and trust in the process. She began to view the garage as a laboratory of hope, where failure was temporary and small victories were celebrated like major achievements. Their bond deepened as the sessions continued. Jake and Emma shared moments of lightheartedness amidst the intensity of training. They joked, teased, and exchanged stories about their lives, forming a connection that went beyond mechanic and client. Emma discovered Jake's passion for creating, his meticulous attention to detail, and his unwavering belief in human potential. Jake, in turn, admired Emma's determination, courage, and curiosity. Their dynamic became symbiotic. Emma gained mobility and hope, while Jake found purpose and fulfillment in her transformation. The garage was no longer just a workspace. It was a sanctuary of trust, effort, and shared dreams. Jake introduced more advanced features to the wheelchair, such as adjustable braces that could support her knees and hips, and small sensors to detect shifts in balance. Emma practiced using these enhancements tirelessly. The repetitive exercises were exhausting, yet she pushed through, motivated by each incremental improvement. Her legs, once dormant, started responding more naturally. With Jake's encouragement, she began experimenting with small steps using the parallel bars, feeling a sense of liberation she had almost forgotten. Each session left her sore but exhilarated. Pain became a symbol of progress, a reminder that her body was healing and her spirit was regaining its strength. Midway through the month, Emma attempted her first steps with minimal assistance. Jake stood close, hands ready, but letting her rely on her own strength. The garage fell silent as she concentrated, muscles trembling, heart racing. For a brief moment, she balanced on her own, legs shaking but upright. The sense of achievement was overwhelming. Tears streamed down her face, mingled with laughter as Jake cheered. It was no longer a dream. It was reality, tangible and exhilarating. This breakthrough marked a turning point. Emma realized that the possibility of walking again was not fantasy, but a reachable goal, one step at a time. Emma's confidence grew with each session. She began exploring more challenging exercises, like stepping forward and backward, using the parallel bars, strengthening her core and leg muscles. Jake guided her meticulously, ensuring safety while pushing limits. Her determination was mirrored in Jake's unwavering focus and ingenuity. They experimented with new techniques, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding spectacularly. Each small victory built momentum, reinforcing her belief in herself. Emma felt empowered, her body slowly reclaiming the abilities she had thought were lost forever. The garage had become a place of transformation, a crucible of resilience, hope, and relentless effort. By the end of the month, Emma could stand for extended periods with minimal support, move forward with the bars, and even attempt a few steps with Jake's assistance. The transformation was visible not only in her physical abilities, but also in her spirit. She smiled more, laughed freely, and spoke with renewed confidence about her future. The accident that had once defined her life was no longer the center of her existence. Jake's inventive wheelchair design, combined with her dedication, had rekindled her independence. She realized that healing wasn't just physical, it was emotional and psychological, a journey of patience, persistence, and trust. One evening, as the rain poured outside, Emma and Jake sat in the garage, exhausted but content. Emma looked at her wheelchair, now fully customized and adapted, and reflected on how far she had come. Jake smiled, pride shining in his eyes, and reassured her that the journey was just beginning. Emma's life was no longer defined by limitation, but by possibilities. She felt a deep gratitude for Jake's belief in her, his creativity, and his unwavering support. The path ahead was still long, but hope had been restored, stronger than ever, proving that human resilience combined with innovation could defy the odds. The mornings in Chicago felt different now. Emma's apartment, once quiet and heavy with sadness, was filled with renewed energy. She woke earlier, eager to practice the exercises Jake had recommended, and her spirit had changed. Each step she took with her walker or the custom wheelchair reminded her that the impossible was becoming possible. Jake visited daily, always ready with encouragement, adjustments, or new exercises. The bond they had built over weeks of tireless effort had grown stronger. Emma now viewed Jake not just as a mechanic, but as a partner in reclaiming her independence and a friend who believed in her when she had doubted herself. Emma's confidence was flourishing. She began venturing outside the garage more often, practicing short walks down quiet streets with Jake close by. The city that once felt distant and unwelcoming now appeared full of possibilities. Passers-by occasionally stopped to offer smiles or encouragement, unaware of her journey. Emma's progress was tangible. Her muscles were stronger, her balance improved, and her determination was unwavering. She could now take several unaided steps, her body responding with movements that had once seemed impossible. Jake adjusted her mobility aids with precision, ensuring safety while allowing her the freedom to push boundaries and test her newfound strength. Friends and family noticed the transformation immediately. Visits that had once been filled with pity turned into celebrations of progress. Emma smiled more, laughed freely, and shared her experiences with pride. Her parents marveled at the ingenuity of Jake's modifications and the resilience their daughter displayed. Emma felt a sense of empowerment that went beyond physical ability. She had reclaimed agency over her life. Each step she took symbolized not only physical improvement, but also emotional healing. The accident no longer defined her. With every forward motion, she shed fear and self-doubt, embracing a future she thought had been stolen from her. By mid-month, Emma was able to navigate familiar streets using her walker, while her wheelchair remained a supportive tool for longer distances. Jake introduced subtle challenges, walking on uneven sidewalks, navigating small inclines, and using stairs with temporary assistance. These exercises were designed to strengthen her balance, coordination, and confidence. Each success fueled her determination to achieve full mobility. Emma's perseverance was remarkable, and Jake's creativity in adapting her aids allowed her to progress safely. Their sessions were a combination of rigorous training, laughter, and heartfelt conversations, creating a supportive environment where fear was replaced with courage, and every step forward was celebrated. Community support began to grow as neighbors and friends witnessed Emma's determination. Local news picked up her story, highlighting her resilience and Jake's innovative wheelchair design. Emma received letters and messages of encouragement, and people offered advice, donations, or simply admiration. While recognition was secondary, the attention reinforced the impact of her journey. She realized that her experience could inspire others facing physical challenges. Each day outside the garage strengthened her resolve, reminding her that progress was not only personal, but also a beacon of hope for others. Her transformation was becoming both tangible and symbolic. Jake continued refining the wheelchair, making it lighter, more responsive, and easier to maneuver. Sensors, braces, and motors were adjusted according to Emma's evolving strength, giving her more independence and confidence. The modifications were subtle but impactful, allowing her to practice walking safely without relying entirely on external support. Emma embraced the challenge, practicing longer distances and more complex movements each day. The garage, once a place of uncertainty and experimentation, had become a sanctuary of achievement and empowerment. Emma marveled at how far she had come, realizing that her body, mind, and spirit had all begun to recover together. One sunny afternoon, Emma attempted a longer walk outside the garage, with minimal assistance from Jake. Her steps were steady, each one more confident than the last. Passers-by paused to watch, offering encouraging smiles and cheers. Emma felt a mixture of exhilaration and gratitude, aware that each movement was the result of weeks of tireless effort, innovative engineering, and unwavering belief. Jake stayed close, his pride evident, but he let her navigate independently. When she reached the curb without support, she paused, turned to him and smiled, a smile that radiated triumph and relief. It was a defining moment, proof of her resilience and the power of collaboration. Emma's social life began to revive as she re-engaged with school, friends, and local activities. Walking, once a distant dream, became part of her daily routine. She even attended small events and gatherings where she confidently moved without fear. Her confidence inspired others, and she became an advocate for innovation in mobility aids, sharing her story to encourage and motivate. Jake's role remained central. His dedication and ingenuity had turned a bleak situation into a remarkable recovery. Their collaboration had not only restored movement, but also cultivated hope, proving that with determination, expertise, and support, even life-altering challenges could be overcome. By the end of the third month, Emma had achieved a level of mobility she once thought impossible. She could walk with minimal aid, navigate uneven terrain, and use her wheelchair for convenience rather than necessity. The transformation was profound. Her body regained strength, her mind renewed confidence, and her heart embraced hope. Jake's contributions were instrumental, but Emma's perseverance and belief in herself were equally crucial. Together, they had turned a dire prognosis into a story of triumph. Emma realized that her journey was not just about walking, it was about reclaiming control, embracing resilience, and proving the extraordinary potential of human determination. Looking back, Emma reflected on the journey that had begun in that small garage. The accident that once defined her life now seemed like a catalyst for growth, strength, and unexpected friendships. Her independence was restored, but more importantly, her hope had been rekindled. Jake's guidance and ingenuity had been a lifeline, but it was Emma's courage, dedication, and willingness to trust in the process that had driven her transformation. She had learned that setbacks could be temporary, miracles could take the form of ordinary people, and the human spirit could triumph against overwhelming odds. One evening, as the sun set over Chicago, Emma stood in the garage, taking a few unassisted steps, savoring the freedom she had regained. Jake watched, a proud smile on his face, silently acknowledging the journey they had undertaken together. Tears of joy filled Emma's eyes as she realized that this was just the beginning. The path ahead remained full of possibilities: education, travel, new experiences, and continued growth. She had regained more than mobility. She had rediscovered life itself. Together, they had proved that belief, ingenuity, and resilience could transform a story of despair into one of hope, triumph, and inspiration.